similar to it was on the game camera to stand right by where he was shot at, and I was like, man, sweet, he showed up. Well, then I got to look a little closer, and the 4 and the 5 were reversed. So that's not
God.
him.
Yeah.
It's his
He's a
twin brother.
magician.
Yeah, it's his mirror brother.
Yeah. Were you on the water today, Dean?
Oh, yeah.
You're going until today's your last day, right?
I got 2 days off.
That's a baby. You gonna come to see your mom?
No, I don't have time.
Oh yeah.
2 days ain't enough. But she's doing good. She's all right for the moment. So
yeah.
If I had today off, I was gonna make the run, but I got so much shit going on here. I haven't done shit. All I've been doing is fishing. So, but yeah,
nothing wrong with that.
I've been fishing too much.
No such thing.
Says the guy with a day job.
I was being sarcastic. Even I went 3 days in a row, and Sunday I was like, oh, maybe I'll go around for a couple hours, and I was like, nah, we'll just pack up and go.
No.
Poor baby.
Yeah. I had to choose between fishing again. So
I had a good run though, man. That was 8 days in a row. And yeah, man, I mean, when you're working on Mondays and Tuesdays at this time of year, you putting cream on the cake.
Yeah, no kidding. So, all right, well, we'll go ahead and get started and see if your surrogate son, Scott, shows up. I didn't hear anything from him, but we'll figure it out. All right. Huh?
He's lost in the marsh somewhere, I guess.
Yeah, probably.
He ran out of gas.
That's what no, he did not. No, he did not.
That's what we'll use.
We'll use that.
Hey, wait a minute. Caleb just texted.
Oh, he did?
I don't have an invite. Am I off today? Is it Tuesday?
God. I said he was on the email.
He's on the email. Moron.
It is Tuesday. And you were on the email.
I'll just call him. He's a moron.
Your email.
Just pop on whenever if you can.
Dumbass at the end of that, please.
Scott said dumbass.
And that's how we do it. All right.
I can't be on the podcast. I'm out of gas.
I just got your text, Dean. Scott said dumbass. All right, we'll get started and let the dumbass get here whenever he can.
Is it Tuesday?
It's Tuesday.
No Gotti.
All right. Hey, everybody knows it's Tuesday, right, Caleb? This is the Bite Me Podcast. I'm John Lopez. Captain Scott Null is right in front of me. Still wearing that camo, man. He is fresh off the ranch. Might have to get an update on that. Captain Dean Thomas complaining about fishing too much. Yeah, don't say that too loudly in this room, man. Don't say that too loudly in this room. But we've got the podcast for you. We are live on YouTube right now. If you're joining us, we really appreciate that. Feel free to comment, advance the conversation, and add to the questions and topics if you want. And if you're listening on the recording on where you get your podcast, we appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe. And by the way, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We've got those Bite Me shorts blowing and going. Got a couple more planned today. Did one from the water with Captain Dean this weekend, and I'm heading out to Anglers Anonymous to get some topics done. And they're always going to be, by the way, no self-promotion by this stuff, man. We're helping people like we always try to. And of course, we got all kinds of topics today going big time. Breeze picked up a little bit the last couple of days, and maybe I'll start right there. with
a
I'll
little
start
bit
right there. A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. I'll start right there with Captain Dean, and then we'll get to everybody else. But it was blowing today, and things changed, and that's going to tie in with a topic that we had on the rundown this week, which of course Caleb probably just opened the email because he's just popping on himself. So, but we'll get to that as well. What was the wind kind of turned things on for you, Dean?
Was it just last week I was complaining about no wind?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I told you, look out, here it comes.
Has it only been 7 days?
Yeah, not even 7 days.
Well,
because it was calm before that.
We had a supreme turn of events. Shit, yesterday was windy. Today was kind of off the chart. I didn't look at what the gusts actually were, but some of them had to be 25 to 30. But the tide is ridiculously high. It's ludicrous high. So we were up against the bushes and using the shorelines. But I did say that the wind would create some better fishing, and it absolutely has. So
good for you. Good for you.
We tore them up the last 2 days.
Good. Caleb, it is Tuesday.
Wind blew my email away, I presume.
I guess.
But
good to have you.
Dog ate his email.
The last email I got from you talked about Maldonado in a positive matter.
That was a long time ago.
Yep.
That must have been in 2019 or something like that. All good. We got some listeners live here, and of course, we're recording, so we're going to have thousands of people listening on the podcast. So let's start right here. And I reminded myself, I wrote a note down last week because we were talking and giving the schedule for the scoping meetings on trout regulations, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to go around the horn. I'm going to start with Scott and then Dean, because you guys always are chatting it up with guys that go to these meetings. Scott, what are you hearing? Because, well, I don't want to contaminate your answer because I'm hearing something, and I'm wondering if you're hearing the same on those scoping meetings.
I'm getting a lot of different stuff out of them, but it seems to be overall people are leaning more to the conservation side at the
That's
meeting,
what I was hearing
from what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing. I think just watching things and looking at their data and the way it was presented and the direction they seem to be leaning, I would guess 3 fish, 16 to 20. That's what my money's on. Everybody, let's get a pot together.
We can do that.
16 to 20.
Yeah, I think I was talking with you, Dean, over the weekend or last week, and you mentioned, I haven't heard a single thing of any like complaints, outbursts, people going to these meetings and saying, banging their fists on the table. I didn't hear any of that, and you said you hadn't either. I mean, I guess that's a good thing, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of disappointing. I like the drama.
Meet me at the boat ramp.
The drama that usually accompanies these things is the entertainment value is worth the price of admission. But very interesting. The feedback that I've got, the overwhelming majority public opinion is a 3-slot fish limit, or a 3-slot limit with no oversize. And where the slot lands, that's anybody's guess. I mean, that's there's a balance with Texas Parks and Wildlife. They want people to be happy. They want them to, they want to sell fishing licenses. They don't want to regulate people out of the sport. So that is yet to be determined. But yeah, the overwhelming majority tends to lean towards the 3 fish. And it just makes sense to make it the same as redfish. You keep it simple across the board. It's the same, easy to understand. But common sense doesn't always come out in the end. I wish I sat on that board, but I don't.
I wish you did too.
I don't.
We all do.
I don't get the opportunity to do that. But send my email in. Everybody has a chance to send their opinion on what they want. But I mean, it just makes sense. And this is constantly coming up in conversation on fishing trips on the boat. It's everywhere right now. Everybody's asking question. What's it going to be? How's it going to be? Everybody that I talk to supports a conservative effort to protect what's out there. There's more people, there's more boats, there's more everything. There used to be places, little corners of the bay that were sanctuaries for fish that didn't get hammered every day. That does not exist anymore. There is nothing that's out of reach of the boats and technology. The boats are amazing. The information, the data that's out there, nobody has to earn anything anymore. Click on YouTube, get your how-to, go fishing, and you can go to any place you want to. So the only alternative is changing the numbers of the fish that come out of the water.
Yeah, and Caleb, what I want to ask you as a kind of a follow-up here is, how's that going to play on the tournament scale and otherwise? I know we're talking trout, but Perry brought up a good question. Weren't people upset when, and you do trout tournaments too, but weren't people upset when the redfish slot hit? How's that going to go over, you think, on that level?
I'm upset that we're not talking about lowering the redfish limit while we're at it. Seems like a good idea to me. Knock 2 off the trout, knock 2 off the redfish. We'll keep it a good even spread. I never thought I'd see the day. Scott and I've talked about it for years that at some point people are going to start getting conservative like the bass world did, and maybe we're starting to see that swing. As far as tournaments go, they'll adapt and move, just like the Professional Redfish League in Louisiana. They're looking at moving the slot down to, I don't know, like a 24-inch max or something. They said, all right, well, we'll just do a live weigh-in on the boat. You know, take a video with your fish on the scale, send it in, and we'll go from there. The Legends tournament, they've adapted. They've went to the live weigh-in on the water. I don't think it hurts any of the real tournaments. The ones that are a little bit less organized with 100 boats in them, and it's like the corporate type deal. It might get a little bit tougher with that. Maybe they'll have to go to the app like we use for the Bite Me tournament or something like that. Or just, hey, we're fishing a tournament today, guys. We're trying to do this so everybody here doesn't need to catch 5 fish and bring them in and then sort out your stuff. But
while I got you here, Caleb, have you been out on the water and have you experienced the same thing that Dean was? Things kind of turning on here as the wind kicks up.
I've noticed that it's windier out there.
It's kind of hard not to.
When you run out of gas, you can go faster that way though.
Well, I was talking to somebody on Facebook the other day. I said when the wind's in the right direction, I only need enough gas for half the trip.
That's right.
Rest of it's automatic. Hey, I was running around in the boat the other day though, and I reached under and was fiddling with the fuel gauge, and turns out I touched a wire and all of a sudden a little needle went crazy on there. Like, oh. And so I plugged it back in. It works pretty good now.
It's funny how that works out. Did you see Dean's video?
I didn't. I haven't yet. I've been trying to keep my truck on the road. It's so windy. Yeah, I watch most of Dean's videos while I'm driving, but it was windy and today, and I didn't want to be unsafe. So
yeah. Don't say that too loud.
We just took a short video of an operational fuel gauge. So
That's right.
Would have something to compare it to.
Mine was more of a flux capacitor last week.
Yeah, like does that work? Just tap it, see what happens. Oh, and by the way, I didn't put this on the rundown, but Dean, we had a little bit of a field test on the old popping cork thing with me and you and another guy on the boat. How'd that work out? I know that, of course. I know the answer.
So you had women and children on the boat.
No,
I can't believe you brought that up today.
Never saw that coming.
Yeah, never saw it coming.
Well, I don't know. To be perfectly honest.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
To be perfectly honest.
It was small trout.
Okay.
But there were small trout everywhere.
The popping cork caught more fish, but we didn't take any pictures of them little sardines.
That's exactly right.
It's nothing. It was nothing that you were going to advertise.
Yeah,
but
no, we'll do another time.
That silly little popping cork caught 5-1 of what I was throwing. But mine were 5 times as long. So it comes
They
out.
were not. They were not 5 times as long.
So you got a 50-inch trout, Dean?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, no, those trout were not 10 inches long.
They were about 12 and a half.
But I mean, all that being said, yeah, it got some attention. It caught a fish or two or 10.
It attracted the children of the sea, is what I'm hearing.
It's like all the ladies were saying, "That's cute. How do you do that?"
But nobody else caught anything real big that day.
Yeah, it was
either.
not a big trout day. No,
it was not a fair comparison. We'll continue the research and get back with more data.
All right. Hey, speaking of bigger trout, we're what's today? The 24th. It'll be 25th tomorrow. We're bearing down on November, and we all talk about November, and boy, it's going to be on, and is it going to be fun and whatever. So the question came up of like what people think, like you just throw your line in the water, Scott. You just throw your line in the water and you're going to catch a big old trout, big old redfish, whatever, flounder, or moving as well. But I mean, it's not like that easy. So I'm not trying to be, trite or anything. But what are some of the conditions and changing, conditions, et cetera, in November, moon phases, or do you just kind of go, it's November, I'm going?
I mean, November's just good. I mean, it's just all around. I don't really pay attention to the phases and the minors and the majors on that. If you can get out on the water and it's safe, chances are good you're going to be able to catch some fish, whether it's working birds, shrimp being along the edge of the marsh, floating your favorite flat like Dean does, throwing a popping cork like you. It all works in November. Everything works. I mean, it all does. I mean, you can throw top waters, you can throw flies, whatever you want to do. Yeah, I mean,
drive by. I feel compelled to always say this, though, and Caleb, I want to get your thoughts on November because people always get excited. I just feel compelled to always say I throw it like 20% of the time, like 20, just to wake them up, as I say. But November, Caleb, what are you thinking? And just get out there if you can.
I agree with Scott. If there is every time that you and Dean could get together and catch fish, it's probably November.
All this, I had to check my calendar. Actually, it's still October.
No, I know. I said we're bearing down on November. Keep up, Dean. Keep up.
I know for a fact it's Tuesday. Like, I know that.
Now you do. Now you do. Dean's looking like I gotta do some research on this. Wait a minute, it's October 24th. I believe I actually said it's October 24th.
We still have another week of this one.
When John said, "Wait, what day is it?" I was going to jump in there with a Tuesday, but then he was looking for scientific information. Apparently,
do not ask Caleb what day it is. Or
no, man. I sat down at my computer. I was like, okay, it is 3:23. I'm on schedule. And I started looking through my email. I was like, damn it. Is it Tuesday? Like,
am I off again? How many times have you missed the day? I'm curious. You think you thought it was going to be a podcast day and it wasn't?
Like, how many times have I missed it and not shown up at all, or
showed up and said, "Oh crap, it's Wednesday or Monday or whatever"?
Almost all of them. I'd say at least 15 times I've been either down on the coast or in like East Houston. I'm like, or a lot of times I'm at Anglers Anonymous just screwing around telling stories, and Mike will go, "Hey, aren't you doing the podcast today?" I was like, "Oh, I gotta go. See ya."
Mike's getting rid of you.
God.
He said,
"Well, you better know what Thursday is." Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, it's not.
By November, we've usually had the couple of fronts, and the tide has been drug out pretty good. It's came back pretty good, and it's been drug out again. That really gets everything going. So now we call November and I'm not trying to be rude, but we call it November. It's the time that guides are made, and that's that people take their buddies out and they just absolutely have a great couple of days, whatever. And next thing you know, we're getting captain's licenses because we went out and did it.
Hey, anybody can do this.
You know, I said I usually said about the same thing about October, but me and Zach went out on Friday, and I questioned everything I knew about being a fishing guide. It was rough. We caught 5 redfish on topwater all day long.
Well, you just hit on a couple of topics that we're going to get to here in just a minute. But you better know what Thursday is, because Thursday I'm going to come over to your place and maybe do another one of those little bite me shorts with your couple.
Thursday's the day that I'm going to panic and finally clean this office, because I'm not motivated enough to do it, but I'm motivated enough to not be embarrassed when my friends show up.
Well, there you go.
Thursday of what month?
Yeah. All I'm saying is you better call me at about noon on Thursday.
I will.
Right now it seems simple right now.
I'll call you. You know I will. You know, as anal and OCD as I am, but definitely no. Those things have been fun. We had a good one with Scott, a couple of good ones with Scott, a couple of good ones with one for sure with Dean. So I want to get Caleb in there. And I don't want to step on your toes for any other your Captain Caleb TV stuff. That's why I'm keeping them short. But I think it'll be cool for our listeners.
I'm not going to do a good job for you.
You're going to mail it in?
Yeah, I'm not going to do a good job.
You're going to go Kyle Tucker on us?
Yeah. I'm going to Dusty Baker on you.
Look, a fly ball.
I'm going to sit here and chew on my toothpick and just watch it burn down and suck.
If you want to really suck, be an umpire.
Umpires too. But yeah. Kyle Tucker, good Lord. By the way, we welcome Rangers fans here. We're just not happy with you right now.
I welcome Rangers fans. I'll root for Rangers. I just hope that Ardolis Garcia breaks his damn ankle in a freak accident. Hate that guy. But the rest of them are all right. Garcia, do you know how bad you have to work very, very, very hard to get me to dislike you more than I'll dislike Juan Soto? And he has excelled. This dude pimps catching a fly ball. How do you pimp catching a fly ball?
And a single.
Don't ask Tucker.
Off the wall.
Yeah, I was going to say, Tucker, don't pimp catching no fly balls, do you know?
No. Tucker stands there and goes, "Hey, look, I should probably start chasing that." But that's just him.
Tucker will be back. But Dusty won't, and I'm happy.
He will. All right, so you touched on a couple of things here, and the genesis of this was a picture that I texted you guys. Do's and don'ts. We've talked about guiding and becoming a guide, and Scott did a really good video about being a guide that's probably going to post this coming week. We talked about guiding a lot. One thing that we haven't talked a lot about is from the customer perspective, do's and don'ts. And this came up from a picture I texted you guys. Some dude, and I'm not going to say the page or his name, posted a picture. And on that picture, and Scott was about to lose his mind. So I'll start with Dean and then go to Scott. But of just a pile of fish on the bow of a boat or in the base of a boat, and then proceeded to say, "Hey, if you guys want to go catch fish, go to this spot." The captain said not to share it, but the water, he doesn't own the water. And I'm like, I texted it to you guys. I'm like, there are so many things wrong with this post. Dean, you've been doing this 20-something years. Scott's been doing it about the same amount of time. Kayla's been doing it a long time. But Dean, from a customer's perspective, I know that's a don't, and get your thoughts on that. But what are some of the do's and don'ts from that guy, from the people who are hiring you?
Yeah, I mean that's pretty crazy there for them to be that specific. You can't stop people from. I mean, you're going to take them fishing where they're going to catch fish. You have to. You don't have a choice. What are you going to do? But to go and blatantly say to do this, that's a bit over the edge right there. A lot of people are going to come back and fish in those spots. They hire guides to learn. Some do, some don't. Some people come down, they hire a guide, they're going to go fishing one time. They just want to catch a fish. They don't care where they're at. They don't want to know where they're at. Others hire guides specifically to learn those things. So, I mean, it's going to happen. But to blatantly go, he don't own the water, that was just kind of
dirty pool.
That was uncool. Just kind of an arrogant kind of thing, that was I don't know. I don't know if he had words with him or there was more behind the scenes to that caused him to do that. But I mean, you got to have a good relationship with your guide and your clients. I take hundreds of people fishing a year. There's all types of personalities that are going to show up to that boat. And even whenever I take them fishing, things change so much. Where you're fishing today is not where you're going to be fishing next week. The tides change. Where we were fishing today on these high tides, rarely can you get back there. So to duplicate it on a daily basis, I could put an X on the map and say this is the spot, and that's not going to apply to every day you're out there.
All right, so plot twist.
Mm-hmm.
I saw this post, and while that guide may not own the water, he knows how to get to where they were at, because there is an entire jetty about 3 inches under the water that blocks the whole area that this guy said go catch your fish at off.
Oh, I think I know where you're talking about.
And there's a couple of low spots. There's a couple of low spots that if you know where they're at, you're fine. Yeah, so while the guide may not own the water, you may not own a lower unit much longer. And I'm very familiar with where he's saying, and I had to call in favors to figure out how to get there whenever I was there for the World Series.
New plot twist.
Yeah.
He's a boat mechanic.
Ooh. The guy who posted that
owns a lower unit shop.
He owns a prop shop or a lower unit shop or something.
Yeah. No, you don't just go there. You don't just run over there and catch some fish. Nope.
Yeah.
And I don't know that wasn't between the guide and the customer going, watch this. I mean,
well, yeah. Yeah, go ahead and post that.
Do's and don'ts, though. I'll hit a high one real quick. If you don't think me and Scott and Dean can't see you in our peripheral smacking stuff down in the navionics, you've lost your mind.
Dude, I was just going to bring that up.
We can see a shrimp jump at 40 yards out the side of our eye. We know you're not checking Instagram that often every time we let off on the throttle.
Yeah, Scott, I was just going to say it's a do and a don't for me. Do put your phone up. I even do it with Dean. Just put your phone up and check it maybe whenever it rings or whatever. And don't start with everybody knows what pins are. Everybody knows, like, oh, you stop and all of a sudden you pick up your phone and tap the screen. Come on, man. Yeah, you can't do that. That's just unfair to the guide.
But in the same sense, tell us, hey, I'd like to go out and mark some spots today. I'd like to go out and put down some tracks. We are going to adjust our day for that. There's certain stuff you're probably not going to get to go do today, but we're not going to, it's not going to suck for you. And we'll actually tell you there's a freaking jetty under the water right there that you will rip your motor off on. So maybe,
and so I have people hire me to jump on their boat and put tracks on their GPS, but it is understood when we leave that day, that's what we're doing today. And as long as you're not underhandedly trying to supposedly steal something, if you're honest about it, and I jump on people's boat all the time and it's like, turn the GPS on. I'm going to show you how to get on and off of these flats. And it's just like I said a minute ago, I can put an X on the map and say, this is where we tore them up today. Tomorrow's another day. Next week is different. And good luck.
Yeah.
I'd go even a step further. 3 different times now, people hire me or befriend me and want to go out and fish, and just BSing and talking. Man, I can't understand how you can guide, and man, that's so hard. It's so tough to be a guide. And 6 months later, they're hanging their shingle out, going, "Hey, I'm a guide.
Yeah,
and I'm doing exactly what Captain Scott taught me."
You've had that 3 times?
3 times. Yeah. And
that's crazy.
I've had some others that have expressed to other friends that they were going to do the same. And then word got back to me that they were going to do that. And they suddenly got off my list.
Funny how that happened.
Yeah, I was suddenly busy. But as far as customers, everyday customers, Dean's right. I mean, we can't hide. I mean, people know our boats. People know, where we go. I mean, I can have somebody sit back and watch where I pole every day. I mean, it's not hard to figure out who I am or where I'm fishing. And we got 9,000 of our closest friends here every week that know that I pole and fish around, Port O'Connor. And I'm in a gray Sabine. If they really want to know where I'm at, they don't even have to hire me. They can just follow me around. But it's just not cool, man. And it's, we've worked long and hard to find these areas and learn these areas, and go find your own fish, go find your own areas to work. Look at what I'm doing. That's fine. Look at how I'm doing it. Now go find an area similar to that and do your own thing.
How do y'all feel about this, Caleb? I'll start with you, because this happened to me a couple of times when I've been with a guide, and someone else was on the boat. Hey, why don't we go here? Or, hey, do you think we should go to blah, blah, blah? And, I heard they're catching fish at blah, blah, blah. To me, that is an absolute, okay, the trip just got weird and I'm not sure I like you. You know what I mean? Because look, I know several bays really, really well, like really well. I could, if I was on Sabine or Trinity, and I'm getting better on Aransas Pass, but definitely East Matagorda, I could tell a guide where I've been catching fish, but you keep your mouth shut. How do y'all feel about that? That's my opinion.
Yeah. Don't get us wrong. I'm not trying to be like, well, you can go here with me and you never get to go again. It's just, it's like, how are you trying to use me today? In what form? And if you present it well, it might work out for you. But if I feel like you're trying to trick me, that's where it's going to go screwy on you. It's that simple. You show up and you got the busted old Sims waders and boots with holes in them and $1,000 rod setups, and I look at your shoulder box and you've got like you are dialed in, and then you say, hey man, like you said, I'd really like to learn oyster farm. Man, I just posted some pictures of some good fish from oyster farm 2 weeks, and this guy called me and booked me right after that. Let's do it. But in the same sense, if you're up front and like, hey, this is what we're trying to do, this is the agenda and everything, and it doesn't seem under the table, you'll get a totally different response than but then there's the other ones. It hasn't happened to me. It's happened to Pat a couple of times. And maybe it's happened to me. I don't even know. I never know it's Tuesday, so I don't know if it's your boat over there the next day or not. But it's happened to Pat where, somebody hired him to go fishing, and the next thing he knows, a guide and that guy are just in that spot for the next 10 days, and Pat can't even get back there with a customer. That's where that's where the problems arise. I make a living on teaching somebody how to fish certain areas. Now, I'm not going to. If it's an area that I've been taught by somebody, I don't feel like I have the right to redo that. I.e., there's some redfish stuff that I won't take customers to because I learned it from Robert and Taylor and Justin, and that's just the respect factor. But if somebody wants to pay me and I choose to pass forward something I've learned about a shoreline or something, I don't have a problem with it. Just don't be shady about it. Let me know your agenda, and then I'll tell you, hey, cool, but we're going to go fish this and stuff, but this happens to be somewhere that I've been making a living, and I think I'm going to be frequenting this for the next 2 weeks. So please don't be there every morning while I'm trying to go there. If we can agree on that, then we can work. Stuff like that.
Dean, that's a real good point that Caleb made, but I was also talking about just the suggestions. Hey, try this.
Right. You've been drifting for an hour and you haven't had a bite. And of course, they're like, kind of like in casual conversation, hey, what about them bull reds out there at the jetties? Or, they've seen some YouTube videos, or they did a little research before they came to the area, and kind of like they're trying to help me out a little bit with some ideas. Like, hey,
to me, that's insulting, man.
I've had enough of this. What do you, like trying to give me some advice on other ideas. And I usually, I politely as possible explain, whenever they give me a suggestion to an area, I will say, yeah, it's good. It can be, but today we have conditions for this. And being patient, fishing through the tough spots and sticking with it will usually get you a fish. And then shifting gears from what you're doing and just, running off on a tangent is not a good way to approach the day. But yeah, it happens, man. There's so much information out there. You're going to get advice.
Yeah.
Good or bad.
I misread your question. I thought it was more like,
I thought that was a good answer. I'm just saying, to build on it.
Yeah, no, I thought that was like, hey, we want to fish this spot. But going back to Dean's interpretation, I went through this Friday, and the answer was, this is my good spot, but I'm open to suggestions at this point.
Hey,
okay,
people,
good.
on a tough day towards the end of the day, and we're going somewhere, they're like, oh, you saved the best for last. And my answer always is just like, no, we went there first. I said, we throwing darts at the map right now.
Yeah. This is the last spot because we finally found a stinking fish here. This is what happened.
I got 30 minutes to kill.
Yep.
I actually had a guy one day that I was pulling shorelines, and there was some flooded grass, tides super high like it is right now. I was pulling up in the grass, and there weren't any fish in there. For whatever reason, they should have been in there. We talked about it. I'm telling him why I'm doing it. And there's just not any fish in there. They're just non-existent. So I switch gears. I go out onto the open grass flat, more like Dean. I start pulling across open grass flat. I'll be damned, there's fish out here. They were a little hard to see, because the water was high, but there was fish out there. We were fly fishing. And I'm stopping. I'm getting him on these fish. And he's kind of halfway casting to them and kind of, just kind of not real interested. And he said, man, I really liked fishing that grass a whole lot better.
Oh, God.
Flooded grass. I said, but there weren't any fish over there. And he said, but it was more enjoyable. And I was like, so you want me to go where there's no fish because it's pretty? And I really didn't. I had a real hard. I still have a hard. It was years ago, and I still have a hard time putting all that together in my head.
Come on now, give them the experience.
I went ahead and stayed out there where the fish were, and said, "How about if I just move up a little shallower on this shoreline, and maybe there's still some fish here, but they're in this flood. They're in this seagrass and the potholes instead of up in that flooded grass." He said, "Well, I just really like the challenge of casting into that flooded grass and not getting hung up."
Okay.
I said, well, hell, I guess that's what we're going to do today then. And I pulled his ass back over there to the flooded grass, and that's all we did all day long was just pull through flooded grass, and I watched him cast at nothing.
Nothing.
Hey,
it was the damnedest day. It was weird.
Hey,
it was really
as long as he's having fun, that's what's important.
I'm in the entertainment business, and I was not entertained one freaking bit, but he was entertained as hell.
That's the guy that gets. That's the guy.
So hot about this.
And then he gets back and he's like, "Man, it sucks with Captain Scott. We didn't see a fish all dang day."
That's a damn thing.
Some guy never came back. I'm not sad about it.
I'll take it one.
I'm really not.
I'll take it one step further. We're somewhere and it's kind of slow, but I know that it'll get going eventually. And say Pat's 10 miles away from me in a back lake, gone, not even near me. And phone rings and I pick it up and I've got my speaker on blast because I can't hear anything. And Pat starts talking about how we're whacking them, and everybody in the boat just does the slow turn and look at me.
Like why aren't we whacking them?
Well, no, it's like, let's go where he's at.
Yeah.
And knowing stinking well that either he's in a spot where I can't fit, or it's probably gonna be over by the time we get there, or this area is gonna produce. But everybody just kind of gets quiet and looks at me like, we're going there, right? No.
Man, that just happened to me about 4 days ago. My buddy Troy, we were over there struggling, and he calls me up and he's like, "Man, Mud Island over here got schools of tails like crazy." And I'm on speakerphone, of course, when this is going on. And I said, I was like, I'm like 16 miles from that island right now. I was way over by Ingleside, and and then
Caleb's got a good excuse. He just says, "I ain't got enough gas to get over there."
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. And so my buddy Troy, he's a guide here, Troy Butler, a good friend of mine. He and I exchange trips. He's the only guy that we share clients back and forth. He fishes like me. We understand each other. So we do. He is the only person that I will like answer the phone for during the day. And rarely does he call me anyway. So I kind of thought he was in trouble. But it comes and goes, man. It happens. You know, some days they're kicking ass and you're struggling. But I told him, I said, man, send me a text the next time you do.
No, that is a do and a that is a do. Always, if you're whacking them, send a text, man.
I thought he was stuck or broke down, and I'm like, man, I got. And you know, I try not to pick up my phone when I'm out there unless it's somebody that I'm like, man, I got to take this. And then of course he's like, man, there's tails and schools, and I was like, damn, you had to do.
The ultimate deer in the headlights look you can get a guy to give you is if, say, I'm on my boat and we've had a really good day and I pull up beside Pat somewhere and the customers look at me and go, how'd it go for y'all? And it's like, dude, I don't want to answer that. I don't want to say it sucked. I don't want to say it was good. How'd it go? You tell me first. Like, give me what I need to give you back. Because if Pat sucked all day and I'm like, dude, we killed him. That is the ultimate. No,
that's every guide.
But
Make sure when you get to the cleaning table, you don't open your box too early. You don't do
it happens
it
happens 2 or 3 times a week though. Like you'll pull up and they'll be like, hey, how'd y'all do? And it's like, oh boy.
Man, I gotta roll to get into the marina to the boat slip. I gotta go past the cleaning table. And so we're coming in, and on one side of the channel, you know, there's freaking pile of redfish hanging on the hooks. And I'm trying to make conversation about the other side of the road.
Hey, look over there. Look at those pretty houses over there.
Matagorda's the same way. And you just roll through there like, man, the black drum bite must have been fire today, I guess.
You always come up with something like, yeah, that must have been live bait for black drum.
Yeah. That's them bait guys, man.
Yeah. I had one that he shows up with a buddy, and the buddy's fished with me a whole lot, and he knows the game that I do, poling, sight casting. He's a conventional guy with gonna throw soft plastics, paddle tails. He knows the game. He brings his neighbor. They listen to Captain Mickey on the way down.
Mm-hmm.
It's summertime. They get there, and he looks at me and he goes, so where's your live well? Where's your croaker at?
God.
I said, well, I don't fish with croaker, and we're fishing for redfish up shallow anyway. The guys that's fishing with a croaker, they're out there on the ship channel fishing the spoils. He goes, well, on Captain Mickey's show, they said that nobody's catching anything unless they're using live croaker. I said, well, we ain't going to use live croaker. I mean, I've got redfish everywhere, and you'll be able to catch them. And it went downhill from there. We ended up back at the dock at 9:30. That's the only time I've ever brought somebody back to the dock and dropped them off.
Did you tell him that the bait house sponsors his show and they got to sell croakers? And that's
no, I didn't even get into that.
You got to consider the source.
Yeah,
and
his buddy was like, all apologetic, and it was how much I owe you, how much I owe you. And I said, dude, you don't owe me anything. Just don't bring this guy back ever.
I had 3 dentists get on the boat one day, and they're the same way. They're like, hey, where's the shrimp at? I said, it was November. I said, oh, we're not using shrimp. And well, we got to have shrimp. And it was like this big thing. And these guys were probably all mid to late 70s. And they had been fishing. They had been fishing a lot. They weren't rookies, but they're like, we've always used live shrimp. I'm like, well, we're not going to do it today. I said, we're going to throw plastics underneath popping corks. And they were livid. Like they were it almost had a mutiny before they even got on the boat. And all the way out to East Bay, I was like, for the love of God, please let plastics under popping corks work today.
Wait a minute. What'd you say? Plastics under what?
I don't know. It was under popping corks. I told you they were 75 years old plus.
Women and children.
Yeah.
And women and children.
These dudes probably had 47 women and children under them in their family tree at this point, John. Yes, they use popping corks. Well, man, We got out there and smoked them on plastics and popping corks. And boy, I was a hero the rest of the day. But for that first hour, they were mad. I was saying prayers. I was as desperate as I was in the 4th inning last night.
Hey, this is the stuff, man. And people don't get it. Guides, man, I just can't. I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. I've thought about it here and there. People have asked me. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't be that guy. I want to relax and have fun. Hey, one more thing, and I want to make sure people understand that these 3 guys in front of me are freaking awesome, and I always brag about them on the air, off the air, etc. And it's not like this is not like a bitch fest. It's just like that's the topic that came up, and I think it's going to help clients as much as anybody. Actually, it's going to almost help them exclusively when they do book a guide, whether it's you 3 guys or something else. But one other thing before we move on, and I've always told this to people, even if I'm not going with them, if they hire, hey, you know a guide, and I recommend somebody or whatever, I always tell them the same thing. Dean, I'll start with you. Be honest about what kind of fishing you like and what kind of fishing you're good at, because that will make the whole day better.
Well, I can tell you what this show is going to do for me. It's probably going to end up with popping corks on my boat, because there's going to be a lot of people expecting to throw something.
You're going to be that damn Lopez.
So I'm going to have to solicit what are the Cajun Thunder or whatever the
I like the Paradise Popper. By the way, I did a video. I'm waiting to spring it on you guys. I might do it Thursday.
It sounds good. Or
usually the little bite me, usually the little bite me shorts I do. I want to focus on you 3 guys. Go ahead.
I'm going to start making popping corks and maybe make my own cool name and just start a whole new
OG
trend.
special. The OG special.
Yes, the OG popper.
Short bus popper.
The short bus popper.
You could call it the Not Yo Mama's popping cork.
By the way, all those little bite me shorts I do with all my friends in the industry to try to help, especially you 3 guys. But I actually did one. I did one on popping corks and how I use them, how I rig them, what I use. And I'm going to spring that on you guys probably Thursday, just so you can learn a thing or two from the guy that is the weakest fisherman on this podcast. But anyway, one more thing, about the being honest and about your skill level and what kind of fishing you like to do, Scott. To me, I tell everybody that, and it'll make it better for everyone.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we kind of vet things out. All of us do, or you should if you're a good guide. Vet it out a little bit and find out what they want to do. And if they want to go out there and throw cork, popping corks, and a cork guide, send them that way. If they want to go out there and throw croakers, I've got guides that are buddies of mine that throw croakers, and I will gladly send you to them because that's not what I want to do. I do this, of course, as a living, but I also do it because I enjoy it. And I'm not going to go out there and fish in a way that I don't enjoy fishing just to make some money. I've got enough trips lined up to do what I want to do and how I like to fish that I don't really need to take every trip that comes my way. And I'm very happy to send them to somebody else.
Yeah, I send 2 out of 3 of the calls I get, I send them to somebody. I got Alan Hall in Galveston that's going to sight cast redfish out of a tower boat. I've got Nick and Pat there in Matagorda. And if when I talk to them, if what I'm going to offer them isn't what they want, or if I even just feel like it's not what they want, I'm going to send it off to them. They're going to have a better time with those guys, and it's all going to work itself out and come around. Scott's absolutely spot on. Tell us what you want in its entirety when you call, when you text, when you email. If you send it to me on Instagram, it'll never happen. But anywhere else, we're going to get you the right guy.
And the clients that call like the customer, the people who grill me on the phone, who ask me tons of questions about what we're going to do, how long are we going to be out there, they've had a bad trip in the past where they have showed up and they didn't get what they expected, and they still paid their money, and it left a bad taste in their mouth. I've had people that say, I quit using guides completely because of the misrepresentation when they showed up at the dock. And they're like, I'm going to give you one more chance to change my attitude on guided fishing trips. But when they've had a bad experience, they're going to ask me a lot of questions. But like I said, we've all said, we've all done this so long, you know what to how to tell the people. I explain to them what we're going to do, you know, plainly. And then there is a complete understanding. I mean, we talk about rods and reels. Are you bringing your stuff? Do you want to use my stuff? All of those aspects of the trip. And I think they're much happier when they have they know what to expect when they show up.
John, your mic's off.
We can't hear you, John.
John, your mic is off.
He's gone. I was doing the hand
John's
signal. I saw the most last night. That was a hand signal last night.
Shake the wire like the fuel gauge. Wiggle the wire.
John's out of gas.
The guy's gas in it.
His microphone ran out of gas.
Pop that cork, man. See if it works.
Yeah.
When nothing else is working, you pop a cork.
Pop the cork.
He's a professional.
We can do whatever we want right now, and he couldn't do a thing about it. And he gone.
Oh shit, he's gone. What do we do now?
Hey, free reign. This is
what's all the stuff we're not allowed to say on this show?
Dang,
Hey,
Scott went to the in charge corner. I can't hear you.
If there ever was a time people say, why is Lopez on this show? And you see what happened in the last 45 seconds, you always get an hour of this every time.
We can't hear you, Lopez.
Nope,
moving, but we don't hear you.
Delaney must have texted him.
Too much popping cork talk.
Did Delaney go fishing with you?
Yeah. Delaney texted John and said, hey, this is a good podcast.
Broke his internet. Broke his microphone.
Scott went over to the host's corner, and I thought he was in charge now. Oh, he's there. It is.
Hey, I'm back in charge again.
You're in charge again.
I can start pushing buttons.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is awesome.
Hey, so what's y'all's favorite thing about John? Let's talk about that.
That's a short subject.
Yeah.
I got nothing.
Barbecue sauce. That's all I can say. Barbecue sauce.
Barbecue sauce is the best thing about John. Oh, he's back. Shh, everybody be quiet.
How about now? There we go. Hey, how about that? We were just talking about you.
Yeah, I heard everything you said.
Damn, the teacher came back from break.
Oh my God, you don't know panic.
Enjoy editing that
until you see these three guys on their own.
What happened is you kept doing this and they canceled you. That's what happened. We need a different hold. We need a different hold up.
Damn it, I'm going to have to do some serious editing. Not all of it, because that was pretty funny. I was listening. But I'm going to have to do some serious
editing. That was just like when the teacher walked out of the room. Remember in school, the teacher had to step out of the room to talk to the principal or another teacher, and all hell broke loose in the classroom.
A lot of paper just flew across the screen.
When the teacher left my classroom, she took me with her. I was not allowed, and that's a true story. I was not allowed to be.
It's funny because we know it's true.
I was not allowed to be left in there.
I was waiting for John to start hitting the mute buttons on all of us.
There's a reason they named it the dean's office.
I was laughing. Unfortunately, I was also panicked. I was really, really scared because I didn't know what the hell y'all were going to end up talking about. But anywho, what I was transitioning to was the next topic, and actually helping some of these fine folks with some fishing here. I'm going to skip around on the rundown because a couple of questions, the one that Scott got and one that, by the way, this podcast might go a little longer because of that last nonsense that we went through for 5 minutes. But I'm going to skip around. First of all, this is adjusting to drastically changing winds, which is timely because that's what's happening right now. I'll read the question real quick. Scott, Hope you had a good weekend, et cetera, et cetera. I wanted to get your thoughts, advice on a pattern we're trying to figure out. Apologies for the longer text. It's all right. I'll shorten it. Basically, he was saying that they tried drifting the whole of the lakes in back lakes and some deeper channels, varying depths. Tons of redfish were previously up in the grass on all the shorelines, over shell, and there were tons of schools, all sizes. Now it seems like that after that first hard norther for a couple of days, there's nothing in the back lakes. Waters are about 1.5 foot lower, and et cetera, et cetera. So what he's talking about is like not necessarily kind of like the anti-dump, like the winds affected things in a negative place. Is that something that you can shed some light on? Is it just go back, keep trying? Have they gone somewhere in particular? What would you recommend?
Post dump, it's about 24 to 36 hours before they're going to eat again. We've talked about that before. They eat so hard on that dump up, the upper coast is where we're talking about, not down where Dean is. We know Dean's fish eat every day.
Every day.
Those upper coast fish, as it's dumping like that, they just go nuts, and that's why we love the dump so much. Is because they're so easy to catch, because they're eating absolutely everything that swims past them. Then they sit on the bottom and they belch. It's like Thanksgiving, and you don't want to go out and eat dinner that night because you had a big day at Thanksgiving. Same kind of deal.
They look for the bubbles.
Look for the bubbles and try to get a hook in their mouth when they burp. That's your best bet. Because I've sat there and watched them on those days. They pull off the shoreline and they squat on the bottom, and you can lay a fly in front of them, you can put a lure in front of them, whatever you want to do, and they're not interested. They are fat and happy, and eventually they'll slowly start eating again. And as the tide starts coming back, bait fish start coming back, they'll start, they'll go back to prefrontal normal fishing again. But
and so here's how I explain that. There's a rhythm to nature. I tell people, so out on the Serengeti, I've never been to Africa, but I watch a lot of Nat Geo.
Man, we're talking about the Serengeti today.
Lion King, man.
I watch a lot of Nat Geo channel. So there's times when the lions are laying at the water hole, and the antelopes can walk up to the water hole and just have a drink. And the lions they choose just not to kill them at that moment, but come back at the wrong moment, and the poor antelope just sticks his head out of the bushes, and the lions, it's time to kill shit. So there's times the rhythm of nature is it comes and goes.
There's your YouTube short, John.
I might have to mark that 58 minutes.
If you happen to be there when the lions are in a mood, and then it's your time.
I'm gonna throw this out there. Jack Hanna doesn't have shit on Dean Thomas.
I'm telling you, I'm gonna defend you a little bit here, Dean, because that was actually very, very compelling, very appropriate, very accurate. But it was funny as hell. Let me tell you about the Serengeti and the antelope and the lions.
It just makes sense.
It did. It absolutely makes sense.
I've heard that analogy 100 times. It was the first time I've had tears in my eyes when I heard it.
The old Serengeti and the antelope.
And now you don't have to do the African safari.
I'm going to get Chris Collin here his news. Hakuna Matata, bitches.
Yeah. Why is this not highlighted on the screen right now, John?
I can work with that. Back in the lane, by the way, back to get between the white lines, between the buoys. So Caleb Scott talked about, okay, they pigged out. No, they're going to just look for the bubbles. They're not going to be there. Dean talked about the Serengeti and antelopes. But if you're on the water and you know that happened and they're fat and happy,
not in Africa.
but and you're not in the Serengeti, you're in East Matagorda or Matagorda Bay or wherever, where do you go? Because that's the gist of his question. He's like, I'm lost. They're full. They were there. They're not there anymore. But you're fishing. What do you do?
I'm assuming it's safe to go to the water hole at this moment. Now, Scott's dead on. He just left out the part about how high the barometer is after that dump. But we experienced the same stinking thing. But okay, where I'll it's hard to follow what just happened.
Take a pass.
So it depends. It depends on it. So this last dump we had, it got cooler. The water temperature was 60 whenever I launched, which is relatively cold for the season being. It was the first time it got cold for them. And there were fish laying absolutely everywhere up shallow. And so we were able to entice some of them, and there's probably about a 30% success ratio on getting them to eat. But the fish were laying up shallow, kind of sunning and chilling out after all of that. My other option would probably, if I was trying to fish for trout, I would go out in a deeper water with a heavier jig head, and I would slow hop stuff on the bottom because the barometer's high, or they ate a lot, whatever Scott says. Either way, they're inactive and they're usually sitting down in the bottom of the water column. And that's what we've done a lot is those post front days is going and just hopping a plastic real slow on the bottom. We can pick them up that way as well.
Or maybe change your entire target, right? I mean, what you're targeting, and maybe go with a plan B, right? Maybe
target a beer up at Twin Peaks instead of going fishing.
Yeah, something along those lines. Something.
Popping cork, wake them back up.
Yeah, man. Yeah, do that.
But
do that.
But just only go to the watering hole a day or two after a front. That third day, don't go get you a drink.
Oh Lord! All right, so
for once, you guys are making good sense.
We are.
I like that we waited 54 minutes to address the first topic. That's a hell of a rundown if I ever saw one.
I got some truth serum for the two at the bottom of the screen here. I needed truth serum out of you two. When y'all saw the rundown, how far did y'all get into reading that question?
What question?
Oh, that's a great question.
Oh, I didn't read that whole question.
I didn't even get a rundown. I didn't even get invited to the show.
Yes, you did too.
Get through that whole question.
Yes, you did too. Absolutely, you did. Y'all see my share screen?
Yes. I tried to tell you. There it is. It's documented.
There it is. It is documented. All right, one more. We're going to go a little long here, like I said, so I don't think our listeners. This is one of those.
From that one.
I did.
I'm going to edit a bunch of this out. It's probably going to be 30 minutes when it's done.
I liked it though. I'm going to edit some, not all. One more before we get to what would Scott do, Caleb and Dean, because it's another question. We'd like to get to the listener questions as soon as possible, and I put this one off for a little bit. See if y'all read this. If you didn't, I'm going to read it real quick as fast as I can. It's about exploring new places. I realize this may be a question that the guys who know won't want to answer. Well, you must not be listening to the podcast very regularly because our guys answer everything. I want to start fishing some of the more remote, quote, backcountry areas of the Texas coast. Bought a very skinny boat. Want to find new places that are similar to what I see you guys fishing on YouTube videos. Without giving specifics, can someone offer any pointers? Caleb, I'm going to start with you. This is something that you have done a lot of. Obviously, all three of you guys have, but I know you've done it a lot where we fished. Without giving specifics, any pointers on how to find these kinds of areas? He's in the Rockport area, 16 foot, 90 horsepower, et cetera, et cetera. I don't mind spending time and fuel to do the scouting, but I need some ideas to get started. And that's an interesting question to me, Caleb, but not every channel, whatever, bayou is built the same. What would be your recommendation there?
You missed one very important part of that question. He says,
"Oh, my bad.
I'm not sure exactly how much range my boat has." So that's why you went to Caleb.
I can tell him how to figure that out.
I'm not sure how much gas my boat has.
I have owned that boat for a year. I didn't even know it had a 17-gallon tank. But whenever I had to put 16.8 in it to fill it back up, after somebody brought me 3 gallons of gas, I figured it out.
Yeah, that'll do it.
So Compton put the best answer on there, and I can't remember much of what he said, but I thought everything was a good point. But the one thing that has proven, I was hoping we were going to do that question about shallow water, because I actually thought about that one today.
Okay.
Anyway,
upset,
man. The number one rule to finding what you want, go on Google Earth, find what you think fits your. If you want a back lake with some shell in it, go on Google Earth, find a back lake that's got dark spots in it. But if put in anything, if anything you can put in, you can put out. Is that? And I've done it a ton. I've done it a whole lot. I was running stuff the Monday with my camera guy, and it's treacherous, sketchy stuff. It's way worse than anything I've took y'all to. And he said, "Man, you run your JH in this?" I'm like, yeah, all the time. But I probably didn't do it full tilt, full blast the first couple of times I did it. I kind of poked around and took my time getting in there, because you have to sacrifice between fishing time and exploring time when you're truly trying to go find new stuff. On the flip side of that, sometimes you have to hit it absolutely hauling ass. So just choose wisely.
Get that Bluetooth lower unit.
Bluetooth lower units. You will get a couple of them, especially when you want to go fish spots that aren't the guys' waters.
And
Scott, this is in your wheelhouse too. Go ahead, Dave.
Is to go slow. I mean, even looking at the most detailed maps, there's things out there that aren't on those maps. And just like what Caleb said, you got to put yourself in exploratory mode. You're not in fishing mode. You're going to learn, or you're going to spend your time learning where you're going, and then apply that to future fishing trips. I mean, if you want to learn places that you've never been to that aren't easy to navigate, it's going to be a long, slow learning process.
Right.
So, the best advice I give anybody on that is it's go slow. And Caleb couldn't have said it better, man. I mean, you're going to commit your time to exploring and not fishing.
If you really want to learn an area, go after that major, massive tide dump. You most of the shell will be out of the water. You can see where the deeper channels are. A ton of the stuff I know because I went and looked at it. If you ever get in my boat, you've seen it, John, I think. But if you ever get in my boat and look at my GPS of East Matagorda Bay, and there's 10,000 spots on it, most of those were found by super low tides. Where I've been in East Matagorda Bay, where the bay was 3.5 foot deep, and it was so cold that it was gin clear, and you could see every little reef out there. Now, I didn't discover every single one of them myself. Some of them came from Pat and Nick and other people, but that's where the majority of that stuff comes from. Is people, I can't tell you how many times me and Nick have went out whenever it's just miserable, cold, and low tide, just to go look at things and figure stuff out. If you go whenever it's a normal summer tide, you're not going to learn near as much as when there's just no water out there at all.
And you're probably going to be disappointed or stuck when you do go. But Scott, this is your wheelhouse as well, and they both hit on what I'm thinking as I'm listening to you guys. Is I often do stuff like that. I did in Matagorda. I did it this past week on Thursday. I wasn't looking for channels and drains, but I just go by myself and commit myself to, I don't know if I'm going to catch a single fish, but I'm going to do some exploring.
Yeah, and on those slow fishing days, like our previous question, like he had, those are the days when the fish ain't biting and things ain't working. That's some time to go exploring. Just go ahead and put the rods up and just go out there and start playing around, figuring out what you got going on. The low tide thing that Caleb talked about, absolutely. That's how you learn a whole lot about a whole lot of back lakes. You just have to know how to get in and out on that low tide. One of the ways I learned a ton of my areas in the back marshes was with a kayak. I mean, put a kayak on your boat, go back there to the marsh, drop that kayak off the boat and start paddling and just ease around back there. Stand up in your kayak, take pictures of some of those lakes so you'll keep them fresh in your mind as to where the drains are and where the oysters are, and any new little bayou that you didn't know was back there or how deep it was. You can see how deep it is on those days.
Yeah. And me and Scott have a buddy. We're not going to mention his name, but he went so far as he went like every update that Google Earth had. He went through every year, blah, 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 on forward, and through a spreadsheet documented where a boat was at. And then through that, identified the hot spots where there was always a boat at and whittled down some fishing spots that way. Now, I ain't saying that ain't pot licking. All I'm saying is I respect the effort enough to not be mad at it. I mean,
yeah, if you're going to go to that extreme, you can have it. I mean,
science,
that's hours. That's hours upon hours of pot licking.
Back when I used to fish greens all the time, every time that I fished it every day for years. And every time a new Google Earth would come out, my boat would be on there somewhere in greens. So he probably pot licked me pretty good.
How'd you find this spot? NASA.
Exactly. Satellites.
Hey,
don't sleep on Google Earth though. That's key, man. Google Earth is a big tool. All right, let's get to what would Scott do, what would Dean do, and what would Caleb do. Dean, boy, I'm looking at the weather. What it wasn't blowing at all. Then it's blowing a lot. Then it's coming from here, and then it's coming from there. Got a lot of people that are going to try to get out there. They're going to try to get out there in the next couple of days, maybe Thursday, Friday. It changes from what I'm looking at. I don't know what forecast you're looking at, but when I looked this morning, Thursday, Friday is different from Saturday and Sunday.
Well, the north wind hits us on Monday here. So the weekend, I mean, we just got big southeast wind all week. Chance of rain, showers, little showers. We sat through some pretty good rain yesterday, but the showers only lasted 5 or 10 minutes. They passed over us. But I mean, it looks like the same. The super high tide is going to be with us. We're coming up on the full moon of October, November, whatever month we've decided this is. But the full moons in October and November both are going to have exceptionally high tide. It coincides with this crazy east wind that we're having. So today, even as we fish throughout the day today, when it got to the point where the tide was supposed to start dropping, it just continued coming in right off the chart. It never turned and went out. So it's going to be stacking up for a couple of days. I'm going to be up against the bushes, the shallowest lakes I can find, the shallowest flats, looking for sight casting opportunities. But it's like springtime weather is what it is. I mean, if you think about March and April, where you have 15 to 25 mile an hour southeast winds and great tides where you can go anywhere you want. I was back there running through the bushes today, even told the guys on the boat, I said, man, I can go as crazy as I want to today. I mean, I was cutting through Caleb cuts, man, where normally would be bottom dragging and I had tons of water, but it opens up a lot of doors. I mean, we have, except for the big wind. Well, what happens here is the wind, if you happen to be where those cuts are open to Aransas Bay and Corpus Christi Bay, it's going to blow a lot of dirty water on those flats. So if you're in areas that are protected where the tide is bringing green water or clear water to those flats, and I know that the other guys here, especially Caleb, is not afraid to fish in dirty water, but we tend to stick to the clear stuff. I mean, I'm always looking for clear water. So the areas that is pushing in dirty water, I'm going to stay away from and kind of run the shorelines until I find nice streaks of green water.
I will say that day that I was kind of exploring on Thursday, I went over a couple of little reefs, little cuts that I'm running, and all of a sudden the boat just kind of goes, huh? Because you're getting semi stuck, but you're running fast enough to get over it. I'm like, okay, well, I might move it a little bit to the right next time I come through this place. But
and I have to admit, for the first time in years, I grounded my boat with a really good, a loyal podcast listener. John Culp was with me, and I had to step out of the boat and push. I was like, no pictures, please. No
the
pictures.
walk of shame. That's a fisherman's walk of shame right there.
See, we all do it. Just there's only a few of us that are man enough to talk about it is the problem.
Yeah.
I posted a video doing a Caleb cut the other day, and Taylor and I got off some stuff where we had to jump land to get back to water, and I had a little short video of it. And somebody's asked me about my boat, and they said, how shallow is it? And we couldn't even feel ourselves hit here. And we went probably across about 3 foot of land to get to the next thing of water. And the dude says, is that hard land or soft land? I was like, does it matter?
What does it matter?
It's dry land, dog. What?
It's land. Yeah. And I'm in a boat. That's what it is.
Oh,
it's
boy.
land. What would you do, Caleb?
This weekend, I would. I'd probably wade this weekend. I don't think I would be doing a whole lot of drifting in the boat if I didn't have to. But the tide is. I'm sure it's 2 foot and POC. Fun story. Almost every one of my favorite tide stations have been hit by a barge in the past 3 weeks. I have nothing for Sargent. I have nothing for Freeport. I have nothing for Matagorda. But I would be fishing up against grass. That water's moved back up. Like Scott always says, if the water's up in the grass, the redfish will get up close to it. Flounder should be up in there. Flounder are starting to move a little bit from what I understand. I don't know. People keep telling me flounder fishing's great. I've never seen great flounder fishing, but I'd be up against grass, wading down grass with that big tide up against is what I'd be up to.
All right, Scott. How about lower middle, Port O'Connor?
I think I'd be pulling behind the mangroves.
Behind the mangroves.
I mean, a little, yeah, because the water's back there. I mean, it's like Caleb said, it's 2 feet high. It's 2 feet high in Galveston, and it's not going to get any lower with this southeast wind. It's just going to keep pushing in, like Dean was talking about. Every tide that tries to go out just gets stopped. And so it's just going to continue to get higher and higher. And a friend of mine posted a picture a while ago of Bayou Vista, and the water was up in his yard, up over his boat dock. So it's unusually high. I mean, it's typically gets high this time of year, but we don't typically have a run of a week of, 15, 20, 25, 30 mile an hour winds out of the southeast. Usually it's 2 or 3 days. Then we get a front, it blows it all out, and then it builds back up. So it'll typically get a foot high, but not like this. I mean, it's up over the docks down here.
Yep.
So you got to go where the fish might go, and redfish are going to go as shallow as they can get. And that'll be those areas that are normally dry behind the mangroves, all that sand. If you got a marsh that's got cattle in it, go poling down those cattle trails, and you can see the redfish. They'll use the cow trails. They really will. They'll just go right down the cow trail.
Yeah, I'd like to apologize to the Bite Me listener. I did not see you had a little daughter in the boat, although she seemed like she probably wouldn't understand what I was saying. But this weekend, I'm idling back to this little obsolete lake and kind of in the middle of nowhere. And I always, if there's a boat fishing on the edge of where I'm going, I usually shut down and putt past it. And I'm and the dude goes, Captain Caleb, right? I said, well, only if you're not the cops. And he said, man, we're only out here fishing because you said that it'd be good today. And I looked at him and said, that was some bullshit, wasn't it?
And this is my daughter. And
my motor on my boat's deafening loud, and I can't hear very well anyway. But I heard something about my daughter. I don't know how that went. I don't know. I stand by what I said. I wish I would have said it differently. But just so you know, I told you what I was going to do, and I wasn't lying because I putted right past you doing what I said I was going to do.
There you go. That's these guys don't lie. All right. Well, that was eventful and interesting. We'll see how the week goes. These guys are awesome. Thank you for holding it down when I lost my microphone for about 3 minutes. And now everybody knows why you really need me. You really need me for this podcast. They're the experts, but you need me. Guys, have a great time. Catch them up. It's going to be a good weekend. We'll talk to you next time.
You should have took Dean with you when you left the class.